Do you ever feel like you just don't have enough time to study English, or that you don't know how to organize your time to optimally study English? Well, this is the video for you. Welcome to episode 1 of English Study Sessions. In this series, we will work together to study all areas of English in a way that fits your busy schedule. In some of these study sessions, we will be studying each subject separately, such as 15 minutes of just reading, 10 minutes of just vocabulary, 15 minutes of just grammar. But in other cases, we may integrate those subjects together. Like today, we are going to integrate our grammar and writing practice so that you don't have to spend extra time studying those separately. Not only will this approach save you time, it's also just an easier way to learn a language, similar to how you learned your native language as a child. So for today's study session, you will need a few things. First, you're going to need some kind of reading material. Maybe you want to read part of a book, a newspaper article, something related to your work field or field of study. It doesn't matter. You just need something to read. And secondly, you will need a place to write. So maybe you want to write in a paper notebook. You might want to write on your tablet or your phone, or maybe your preference is to type things on your computer or laptop. It doesn't matter. Just have somewhere to write. Some additional resources that you don't need but will help to optimize your study sessions will be the weekly study plan, which you can download for free on my website, the reading recommendations guide, which is also free on my website, the 5x5 vocabulary guide, which you can download from my website or get on Amazon, and my 365-day writing journey, which is also available on Amazon and my website. So to plan out today's lesson, we are actually going to do the minimum amount of time for each subject, just to show you how you really can fit so much into a short amount of time. So to start, let's take a look at our weekly study plan to figure out how much time we will dedicate to each subject. So let's go down to our tips for success page. So we can see here that the suggested amount of time for reading is 10 to 30 minutes. So today we are gonna do 10 minutes. That's it. For the listening practice, that is going to be incorporated within the study session because you will be listening to my instructions and listening to the questions that I'll ask of you. So we don't have to dedicate specific time, but it will be around 10 to 15 minutes of listening. For vocabulary, we will dedicate a full 10 minutes to it. And for speaking, this will also be incorporated just like the listening practice. So during our break times, I will be asking you questions and you will answer them out loud. So depending on how long you decide to speak, that's how much speaking time you'll actually get in. If you find that there isn't enough time to answer your questions, just pause the video and continue speaking until you're ready to move on to the next topic. So I'm going to estimate that there will be around 15 minutes of speaking in today's study session. Now for writing and grammar, like I said, we will be doing both of these at once today. So I generally recommend at least 5 minutes of grammar practice and at least 5 minutes of writing practice. So today we are going to combine them into a 10-minute writing grammar practice. So with all of this together, we're looking at about 40 to 50 minutes of English study practice, which isn't that long when you consider everything that we will be accomplishing. Now, these English study sessions aren't necessarily lessons because I will be doing the same work alongside you. However, throughout these study sessions, I will be teaching you all different ways to improve your English, whether I'm giving different vocabulary suggestions, teaching you specific grammar points, encouraging you to study certain things that maybe you didn't think of before, and also just giving you general advice for improving your overall English skills. So once you have your materials ready, let's get started. So today we're going to start out with reading. Reading is super important for building up our vocabulary, grammar, learning about new sentence structures and organization, and it can also just be really fun. You don't have to read to just get information and learn things. You can also read for entertainment and you'll learn vocabulary along the way. So today you can read anything you want. Maybe you want to read a newspaper article or something from Ingo. Maybe you have something that you need to read for work or school. Or if you would like, you can check out my reading recommendations and choose something from there. That's what I'm going to do today. So for today, I have decided that I want a little bit of action and adventure, so I'm going to read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So I was actually able to find Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde available for free to legally download on Project Gutenberg. I just went onto the website and checked out their frequently downloaded. Right down here at number 28, we can see we have The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So you can just go ahead and download whichever version works best for you. So while you're reading, we'll also use this as an opportunity to pick out our 5 vocab words for the week. If you come across any words that you don't know, there's no need to pause and look them up in the dictionary. All you need to do is highlight them or write them down. And then afterwards, when we get into our vocab section, that's when you can go ahead and look them up. If you pause to look things up during this reading time, you're going to lose the flow and you will disrupt your reading process, and it will actually make the reading more difficult, and you won't be able to practice those skills in finding context clues to understand things. If you just keep stopping and looking up definitions and stopping, then 1, reading won't be fun, and 2, you're actually hindering yourself from building reading comprehension. Make sense? So if you're on a tablet, you can go ahead and highlight the words, which I will do so that you can see it on the screen, but also I'm going to write them down. You don't have to do both. Just choose whichever one works best for you. So when you have your reading material ready, let's get started. Okay, you did it. That's it. That was 10 minutes of reading. I just came to a very strange part in my story where I don't know what happened, but it was talking about a man trampling over a child's body and she was screaming. So if you saw that I had a shocked face, that's why. I was not expecting that to happen in the story. So what I'm going to do is just circle where I left off. So next time I'll be able to remember to start here because it's not, at the beginning of a paragraph or something. So what about you? What did you read? Make sure to use past tense when describing this because you did technically just read it in the past. So did you learn something interesting or find your reading to be enjoyable? So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words from my reading, and it was only 3 pages. So what about you? How many words did you get? Remember, we're also using past tense because it did happen a few minutes ago, technically the past. So even though with our vocab guide, we only use 5 words per week, it's okay if you got more because you can save those for later if there's a week when you forget to gather some words through reading or listening practice. So that's totally fine. You can save them, okay? So now it's time to move on to vocabulary. We will also be doing this for 10 minutes. So step 1 is going to be looking at that list of words and picking out the top 5 that you would like to learn this week. After you write them down, you'll then go onto your day 1 page, fill in those new words, and then you will use your phone, computer, whatever, to look up the definitions and the part of speech. If you finish this before the 10 minutes is up, awesome. That means that you'll have time to review the words and vocabulary, okay? Because review is how you can easily remember those words. So are you ready? 10 minutes of vocab starts now. Okay, that's it. If you need some more time to write down those definitions, go ahead and pause. I know it took me a little bit longer to write some of these down because a few of these had pretty long definitions. So tell me, what 5 words did you pick out and what are their definitions? Don't worry about the pronunciation today. We'll work on that next time. So I know I picked out some of these words just so that I could check the pronunciation of them. I've read them before, so my brain has an idea of how they might sound, but I've never used them in conversation. And there were a few other words that I saw being used in different ways, like the word mortify. I've used that in conversation to talk about being embarrassed, but I had never seen it used in the way that it was in the story. Same with sordid and coquetry. So that's why I chose these words. So what about you? Why did you choose your words? So depending on what you read, it might be a good idea to actually look up how commonly used the words are that you chose for your week. So the book that I read was written in 1886, meaning a lot of this vocabulary might not be very common anymore. So for instance, if I look up coquetry, I can see that it's not a very commonly used word anymore. However, the frequency of use is starting to go up a little bit more, so it might be worth knowing. With that being said, it's probably not something to use in everyday conversation, but rather you could use it in more academic writing. That would be fine. What about the words that you chose for the week? Are any of them kind of outdated, or are most of them trending? I highly recommend checking out this video. If you're practicing English vocabulary, this hack is perfect for you. Just so that you can get an idea of whether or not a word is worth your time to study. Remember, we're only choosing 5 words during the week, so maybe it's not worth it to pick out words that aren't commonly used. Unless it is something within your field, then yes, definitely choose it. Now it's time to get into our writing practice. I know a lot of people don't enjoy writing and they want to just use ChatGPT instead, but it is still a very valuable skill because you will eventually need to write something, whether it's an email for work, or maybe you're in university and you have to write some essays, or you plan on applying to university or taking the TOEFL exam, the IELTS, whatever. You will eventually need to write, okay? Writing is also an excellent way to practice your vocabulary, grammar, sentence structures, organization, and if you can write well, you'll also be able to speak well. They're basically the same thing. So it's super important. So today, we'll all work together on the January 10th prompt in my 365-day writing practice, because that way we can all practice this future tense. Now, if you have already done the January 10th prompt, or if you use this video multiple times during your English study sessions, what I want you to do is still use future tense and write about what you will do tomorrow or this upcoming weekend or any future plans that you have in the coming weeks. I also want to challenge you to use some of those vocabulary words in your writing. Now, I know for myself that's going to be kind of an extreme challenge because the words that I chose for the week really have nothing to do with my prompt, but I will try my best and I have an idea of how I can use at least one of my words in here, but I challenge you to use as many as possible. So, 10 minutes of writing. Let's get started. That's it. That was 10 minutes. Now, it may look like I wrote a lot, but that's because my handwriting is pretty big. I'm sure if someone wrote the exact same thing, just with smaller handwriting, it would probably look like half as much, but I just write very large. So for some extra speaking practice, I want you to go ahead and read your journal entry out loud. Don't worry, no one's actually listening. And don't try to rush it and read it super quickly. Slow down a little bit so that you can make sure you're getting the correct intonation, you're enunciating well or trying to speak clearly. Make sure to pause at your periods and commas. Just try to make it sound as nice as possible. So go ahead and start reading out loud. You can pause the video right now to take as much time as you want. That was excellent. So what about the little vocabulary challenge that I gave you? I was able to get 3 of my words into the writing. I know I definitely struggled a little bit to include my Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde vocabulary into my letter to my future self about goals, but after going back and forth between my writing and my 5x5 vocabulary guide, I was able to figure out how to incorporate those words in a way that's not too awkward. Though I will admit the way I used emulously probably isn't the best, but that's fine. Which of your vocabulary words were you able to integrate into your writing? Did you find it difficult to include them? And if you are using the My 365-Day Writing Journey, you can go ahead and check off those English skills. You've practiced listening by listening to me speak. You already practiced your reading at the beginning of this study session, and you have been speaking as I've asked you questions throughout this study session. So look at you! You've done so much today. So now let's hop back over to that weekly study planner so that we can check off all of our accomplishments for today. For me, today is Wednesday, so I will be checking things in the Wednesday column. At the beginning of our study session, we started out with reading. You've been listening to me during this entire lesson, so we've got that listening practice. I asked you questions and you answered them out loud, so you did your speaking. We practiced our vocabulary for 10 minutes, and we were able to integrate our writing and grammar practice when we did the writing and practiced using our future tense grammar. So look at that. In only 40 minutes, we practiced all areas of English. Not too shabby. So now we can go all the way to our yearly progress page, and we'll put a check mark right here just so that we can continue tracking our progress throughout the year, and you'll be able to see every day how awesome you are and how dedicated you are to practicing English. And even if you do skip a few days, that's fine, because you have 365 opportunities to practice English throughout the year. Missing a few days won't hurt your progress. So congratulations! You completed 6 areas of English today in a pretty short amount of time. What did you think? So to wrap up today's study session, I want you to tell me, what was the most valuable thing that you gained today? Was it that you found joy in what you were reading? Because happiness is valuable. Did you learn vocabulary that will be very useful for you? Did you find our future tense writing practice to be really useful? Or did you find the speaking practice to be especially useful because maybe you don't have many opportunities to use English in daily life? Go ahead and tell me what was valuable and why. My dog just decided to join me at the end of our study session. Perfect timing. So thank you again for joining me on today's study session. You're doing an excellent job to work harder towards your goal of English proficiency. And remember, whenever you don't have hours and hours a day to study your English, you can come back to this video as many times as you need just to give you that extra motivation to study and to help you with that timing. Thanks for spending time with me today. You did an excellent job. So I will see you later. Bye. I'm not going to do that. Scratch that. Not going to happen. No, just don't, please. No. Okay. Welcome to how much time we will... Hey, just stop your tippy taps, okay? I'm almost done. My dude. Your ball stinks.